Hello, my name is Darren Dilietto and welcome. So I wanted to demystify licensing and explain what it is and why licensing is nothing to fear. I assume most understand the basic concept as licensing is something we all see on a regular basis in our daily lives, but generally we don't talk about it. I'm guessing this is because it's not a buzzword, and if something doesn't help or potentially hinders a company's marketing efforts, they'll avoid it like the plague. But guess what? Behind the scenes, businesses love licensing. It's the cornerstone of the creative industry. Licensing allows copyright or IP owners to tap into the exponential value of their artistic properties, be it music, artwork, film, or literature, and they'll exploit it for all it's worth. Now, to understand licensing, you need to understand copyright. You automatically own a copyright when you create an original work, excluding any prior arrangements or agreements you may have. You can register your copyright with your National Intellectual Property Office, if there is one in your country, to strengthen your copyright claim. Registration isn't necessary in most cases, but I recommend it if you can afford it, especially if your work has mass market appeal. Now, to clarify copyright, you can't copyright an idea. It needs to be tangible, transcribed in some manner, presentable. You can own a copyright to a 2-minute sketch or a 10-foot masterpiece. And to mention it again, if the piece is original, you created it, you own the copyright automatically and instantly at the point of creation. And as a side note, if you're copying a photograph, another artwork, or even a music riff without permission, that is copyright infringement. If you're creating work that's heavily influenced by an existing IP, that's derivative work. Suppose you're commissioned by a third party to create an entirely new character as part of an ongoing saga or series. In that case, you may be considered a co-copyright holder or even the sole copyright holder of the new properties of your new creation, depending on the contract you have with the client. There are parody laws to complicate the matter further, but they're a whole other kettle of fish and a topic that deserves a video and conversation of their own. Plus, the UK and the US have different views on whether a character can be copyrighted or not. But I digress. Licensing your artwork is possible because you own the copyright. The copyright. Whenever you buy music or a movie from iTunes, they grant you a sub-license to listen to the music or watch the film on a designated device without owning it. With Spotify, the artists have granted Spotify a license to stream their artwork, and you've agreed to Spotify's licensing terms before you listen to the stream. The artists or studios still own the copyright, hence why on occasions, for example, if royalty payments are in arrears, a musician can pull their music from a streaming platform at the drop of a hat. When you license your artwork to a company or client, there aren't any rules except for the ones you set. It can be very simple or an extremely complex arrangement. Either way, contracts are your friend. If you were a character in Douglas Adams' Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, a contract would be your towel. You should never leave home without one, and as if you're doing so, you risk everything.
Towel. Keep this and guard it with your life. Huh?
In my opinion, when you lay out your terms, the vital bit of your contract is the stipulated usage, the license, as this tells the client what they can do with your work and essentially what they can't do. Restrictions is a better word for it, but clients don't want to hear a word like restrictions, as we don't tend to use it. But that's how you should see a license. It's the restrictions on using your work. Now, deciding what you're willing to offer a client and what they need or want is where the negotiations happen. The more they want or need, the more it should cost, although that's not always the case. So, getting practical for a minute, say an agency working for a Fortune 500 company approaches you and they want a few images for a social media campaign. You might be looking at around 1.5K per image and they'll want a complete copyright transfer. This is a typical arrangement and you don't need to worry about negotiating a license. It's a simple transaction. Now, suppose you're working with a company that's not a multinational and doesn't have seemingly inexhaustible funds. In that case, the budget will be tighter and they'll push to get more value for their money. This is where a clever licensing arrangement comes in. Working from your base rate, the minimum you need to cover your time and costs, you then license the usage rights the client needs, and the more they want, the higher your quote will be. You should focus on 4 elements when putting together a license: time, geography, usage, and exclusivity. I'm keeping this simple for the sake of explaining how things work, but in reality, licensing agreements aren't particularly simple, and I don't think they should be. But like parity and fair use laws, that's a conversation for another time. As I said before, there are no rules for what you can and can't offer a client. As long as your contract is airtight, it's all good. Now, with time, it could be 6 months, 12 months, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. You can offer them as long or as short a period as you want, and at the end of that period the client no longer has the rights to use the artwork you've supplied. Or you can offer them the same time frame and make it an exclusive period, meaning they won't see the artwork anywhere else and can continue using it once the period ends. And once the exclusive period has ended, you can also use the artwork for your own merchandise or license it to another company under a non-exclusive license. Although before you go doing that, I would offer the original client an extension of their existing license, generally at a discounted rate. If they don't want to extend the license, that's fine. They don't have to. But if they continue to use the work in a way not permitted by the arrangement, that's a breach of copyright. And you can send them a cease and desist letter. If they ignore the C&D and don't take any action, that's when you can, if you choose to, take them to a small claims court, which I think are called the same thing in the US. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but keep in mind, unless a contract states extension terms, the terms and renewal fees can be negotiated up or down by either side. So, okay, with geography, you're looking at territories which have got a bit murky with businesses generally operating online these days, but we still print books, we rent billboards, so it's not entirely gone away, well, yet. You can list any geographical location as part of your licensing agreement. It could be worldwide, in which case it wouldn't be too crucial from an administration perspective, but you could be freelancing for a company that only operates in North America, meaning they only need a license for that territory. Not that you can't expand the parameters of a license at a later date, earning you a nice bump in your commission if they decide to expand their operations into other territories. Exclusivity can also come into play here. Say the company headquarters is in Paris, France. Yeah, you could offer them the rights to use the artwork exclusively in Paris, plus non-exclusive rights to use the image in the rest of France. So you could then also license non-exclusive usage rights to one of their competitors outside of Paris and within France. But then outside of France, you'd be free to offer an exclusive license again. Now, the third element I mentioned was usage. This refers to the actual usage. Say it's a billboard or maybe a t-shirt, for example. You can write a license that says the client can only use the artwork in a way that you designate. So, for example, as part of the contract, a license can tell the client they can only use your artwork on a t-shirt and nothing else. So without an update to the agreement, they can't decide to use the artwork on a hoodie or a jacket. You shouldn't need to state what they can't use it for. But I do sometimes see a list of examples they can't use the artwork with to make your intentions and the client's usage rights clear. Exclusivity can be, but doesn't need to be specific. You could offer a license exclusively for t-shirts, or you could offer them exclusivity for the entire apparel market. For the latter, you would have the option to sell art prints of the work, as art prints aren't part of the apparel market. For the former t-shirt exclusive option, you're within your rights to license the artwork to another apparel company to use on, say, a canvas bag. When it comes to licensing agreements, the possibilities are endless. All 4 of the terms I've mentioned can be mixed and matched. Please work with your clients and offer them a licensing agreement that protects your interests and that both sides feel is fair. It's not difficult, but it does take persistence to get it right. To completely misquote Spock, infinite combinations to create meaning and beauty. Use your creativity in all areas of your business and not just when creating art. I'll see illustrators and clients getting it repeatedly wrong, primarily due to not understanding what licensing is or how it works. We need to change this. The path of least resistance, as in copyright transfers and work for hire contracts, are usually paid below a reasonable market rate, sometimes criminally so. If you're a freelance illustrator, this is your livelihood. You need to protect it. There's no question a business will protect its interests, especially when it comes to its bottom line. And guess what? As a freelancer, you're running a business. You're not an employee, so protect your business, protect yourself. Understanding licensing and being able to explain it to your clientele is a good start. To finish off, if you're not already aware, I run a community called Hirello. It's a collective of freelance illustrators, animators and artists that I promote, advise and connect with clients. I'm always happy to look over members' contracts or help them negotiate. It's what I spend most of my time doing. If contracts, licensing or even quoting on jobs are something you struggle with or are new to you, I encourage you to join our community. You can find us at hirello.com. I'll leave a link in the description. There's also a link to a blog post that accompanies this video and which I've summed up the most important points in. Please like the video, share it and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you next time in my rants less lecture / personal therapy session. Bye.